All right. What's going on, everybody? It's Josh, aka the Muslim Muscle, coming at you with the next up podcast. You know what it is? Talk to him.
It's your boy, Cousin Creamy.
And special guest.
What's up, y'all? My name is Gabriel Rocha. Look, happy to be here on the podcast. So thanks for having me on, fellas.
Yeah, so a little
Absolutely.
bit about Gabe. Kyrie's training partner. So we had Kyrie by the time this comes out, like 4 weeks ago. Um, but it's cool to turn around and get into like seeing both sides of the training partnership and like where each person comes from. So like Gabe's cool, right? Probably should have established that. Um, but like it's definitely much more of the mental aspect of it. We talked a little bit on Instagram and got into it and just thought it'd be a really good idea to bring him on the podcast and talk the mental side of bodybuilding, like what it takes to really be a champion, how you take somebody and kind of transform what they're actually doing and where their head's at when it comes to just getting through the daily grind of what bodybuilding really is. So kind of our little kickoff into how we're going to do this today. Colin, do you have any questions to kick us off, start us in the direction?
Yeah, so more about not necessarily the training side, but really from as an athlete to a coach when it comes to the mental side of things. How much effect do you believe a coach's outlook or perspective have on you in, I would say probably a prep setting, but more so just overview of like any real phase. So a growing phase or even like a prep phase, like what kind of outlook does that or what kind of effect does that have on you as an athlete? Whether it's personal experience, whether from an outsider looking in, like what do you believe?
Yeah, man. So I come from a sports psychology background. So I love like the whole mental side of performance and all that, right? And so
Mm.
I think like having the right coach who understands their athlete really goes a long way. For me, I'm not like super genetically gifted or anything like that. So I really got to make my off seasons count. So like kind of how you're talking about right now, how do you from an athlete's perspective, choose a coach who's right for you to be able to kind of guide you through some of those moments, like where you're in prep, where you're in off season. I'm really lucky. I've got Justin Shire as my coach.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah,
Dog.
and yeah, love that dude. Been with him almost 3 years now. And when I started working with him, like I looked like I didn't even train really. And I just finished up my first show like a month ago. I did Texas State. Um,
Hey.
and so coming out of that now and kind of like his perspective on off season and like health phases, like growing phases, his mentality is like, yeah, you can enjoy life a little bit in the off season because obviously you've got other commitments, like you've got your girl, like you've got work, family, that type of stuff. So this is the time to enjoy that. But he's like, all right, for the other 40 meals a week, like you got to be on point, right? And so
Yeah.
he's like, there's no nonsense when it comes to bodybuilding for him. And so like having a coach like that I truly like look up to, who lives the lifestyle, it makes it really easy for me in my off seasons to just kind of nail the plan.
Yeah, it's and that's the craziest thing when it comes to it because you can realistically do the same exact thing with two different coaches and have two completely different outcomes. And really that I believe is more the athlete's perspective of whether it's respect and or willingness in order to be according to plan. But again, it's also has a lot to do with the relationship built within. So again, my first coach, he introduced me to the whole bodybuilding thing. I was pretty clueless about it. He got me into the sport. I always appreciate him for that. We never really clicked. Didn't really do anything. My newest coach, Jack Eagle, shout out Jack. He again picked him up day one of prep, and from there we took myself from placing I could barely place at a regional to stepping on a pro qualifier and placing there. So it's I
Fuck yeah.
believe it has a lot to do with shut up, Josh, shut the fuck up. I believe it has a lot to do with, you know, the relationship built, but also how much the coach is willing to put into it. Because again, it's all well and good for, you to be coached by whatever.
Honey.
Even like for instance, like Chris Bumstead. Oh, he's my coach. But if he's not putting in the work or the effort into you as an athlete, how much are you really going to put out, or how much are you really going to want to show up for him as much if he's not willing to put in that much effort for you?
Yeah,
I got a
I think
question
that's
for both of y'all. Oh,
good.
my bad. Go ahead.
was gonna say, I think that's a really important element because like throughout the week, especially like in an off season, you got to have that mentality of like, damn, I don't want to let my coach down. Like they're putting a lot into me. And so it's like if I miss a meal here, if I skip training today, or if I don't hit the reps that I need to hit in my training, then I'm letting my coach down. And I know those check-ins aren't going to look how I want them to. So
Mm.
yeah. What are you gonna say, Josh?
So, do you guys feel that for you to be at your best, there needs to be a level? Oh, we're gonna get into this. All right, cool. So, who have either one of you read The Prince by
Machiavelli?
Machiavelli? Yeah.
Mm.
All right. So, the main question of the book is it better to be feared or loved? It's also in Scarface and all that. Do you believe that in order to be the best athlete that you could be, there has to be a certain level of fear from your coach? You could love your coach, but still fuck off on the plan. So, do you think that you almost have to fear your coach to a little degree, to a certain degree? Like, listen, Justin Shire, love the guy, has half a hand. I'm a little afraid of him. Definitely a little afraid of him. So I can see that. I understand that. I almost feel like there has to be, in my book, a little degree of fear of like, all right, yeah, I can't mess up because this guy killed me. So I don't know. I just want to see your guys' perspective on that as well.
Oh, you Gabe, go for it.
Man, yeah. I think that fear element is really important because obviously fear is such a driving force. And so for me, the fear comes from not wanting to let that person down, right? Because I have, with him at least, it's like there's such a deep level of like reverence and respect for him. And I understand like how much he has invested into getting me to this point where it's like, if I mess up and don't follow the diet, like he can easily say at any point, like, hey man, you know what? Like we're just not really clicking together as a coach and athlete. So take care here. Don't worry about paying me for next month. Like go off and do your own thing if you want to not follow the plan. And so I think like that element of fear is always going to be there because of like also the level of investment I have into the relationship too. And then also there's another element of I want to be his best athlete. And so it's like I've joked to him before. Well, me and Kyrie will go deadlift every week, right? And one of the things that I've said to him in the past is like, I want to be Justin's best stiff-legged deadlifter on his roster. I'm not because to me that's like the ultimate lift. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know that he's got some absolute animals on his roster, like Tyler Hall, like he's over there stiff-legging 500 pounds per reps. And it's like I'm trying to catch those dudes and be the best one on his roster.
When do you guys stiff like deadlift? I might have to FaceTime into this. Might have to
Uh,
have some fun.
right now we're Friday nights.
Oh, Friday nights at the bar. Love it.
Friday nights at the
Love it.
bar, which is I don't know why we programmed it this way, honestly, because like we just switched to an upper lower split. I know he's told you about it too.
Hmm.
So it's like we get to like Thursday night and we like text each other and we're just like, dude, we're both fucked right now. Like, and then we wake up Friday and it's just like, cool, we gotta go hit our second lower day. We got leg press, we got Bulgarian split squats, and we got stiff legged deadlifts all in the
Oh
same.
my
We're like, what?
God.
Why do we do this again?
Jesus Christ.
I just wrote up my new split. I'm actually sending over to everyone who's affiliated. So everyone, Dino, Kyrie, you, Colin, everyone's getting a copy of it. See what we think. Everyone's
Yeah.
gonna think it's way too high volume, but as Kyrie said, if it's and try 36 sets, let's see what happens. So realistically, when it comes to people that you've helped out with just little mental stuff, like we saw our anyone who follows you saw on Instagram the other day, like your story with Dan.
Yeah.
So like in a prep setting, even we don't even have to get into Dan, but like with Kyrie being right next to him for his entire prep, what little things did you find to kind of move the biggest rocks for him to get through the prep mentally and be in the right headspace? Obviously, he's active dash ex-military. I can't remember if he's still active duty or not, but his mindset's going to be different than someone else. And both of those guys in this example are ex-military. So, like, where do you see the biggest rocks for anyone to just be able to be in the best headspace for prep and actually, put out the most amount of effort that they can and be the best athlete that they can be?
Yeah, I think for Kyrie specifically, because of who he is as an individual, and obviously like the answer to this stuff with psychology is always it depends, right? Because different people have different tendencies that they need and whatnot. For him, it's just showing up every day on time and then matching or exceeding his intensity. Because with him and I, we're so competitive with each other because we're very close on a lot of lifts, right? There's some lifts like on his pressing movements, like he blows me out of the water. But like on our leg days, like we're pretty close. On some of the back movements, we're pretty close. And so as long as I'm going in there and I'm training as hard as I can, I think we both have that element of like, hey, if I'm going to be your training partner and like, because he wants to help me turn pro, I want to help him get to the Olympia. Like that's part of like my actual daily thoughts that I'm having when I'm walking in the gym. I'm like, this is not just about me. It's like I'm trying to get this man to the Olympia. And so it's like if I match that intensity, I know he's going to look at my set and be like, I can't let this dude beat me. Right. And these are like conversations we have with each other. I don't know if you saw Kyrie's video the other day of him deadlifting, where he was like, fuck you. That,
Yeah.
that came from so before I went into prep, I used to beat him on our stiff leg deadlifts every week. And so it kind of became this running joke on like, yeah, you're never going to beat me on deadlifts. You're never going to beat me on deadlifts. And so obviously I go into prep, I lose some strength, I drop like 40 pounds. And then we started deadlifting again. And then I did my top set. And then I came out of it and I was like, hey, your worst nightmare is back. I was like, I'm stronger than you in deadlifts now. And so he went and hit his set. He beat my number. And so when he got to like rep 12 or whatever it was, that's when he looked at me and he was like, fuck you. Fuck you. And so it's like that competition is there. So as long as the intensity is there for him, that's all he needs because like his mental game is good. Like he doesn't have like high highs and low lows. He's pretty stable across the board. But as long as I'm showing up and doing what I need to do, he's good.
I want to get into this now because Colin probably felt that one. When it comes down to training with someone, how important do you think it is to shit talk? I think it's one of the most important things is if I can go into a set, I can back up what I'm saying, and then I can call you out afterwards. We're both getting better that day.
Yeah.
You cannot you just I can't see anything that beats that. You have to be able to talk shit and except that you just got beat on the set too, but like you're not losing again. So
Yeah.
what's
Honestly,
your
I
opinion?
I love it. Like that competitive aspect. I think you can't really beat that in a gym because it's like as men, like we don't want to accept that this other man just beat us. Right. And so I think when you have a training partner who does that and you can use it correctly to like fuel your own set, it's like the shit that I say to Kyrie is nowhere near as bad as the shit that I say to myself in my own head about Kyrie when I'm about to go hit a set. So it's like depending on who goes first, because there's some days like he'll hit his set first and I have to follow him up. And like the shit I'm saying to myself is like, you better not let this dude beat you. Like, yeah, he can have the pretty physique, he can have the genetics. Like, you better outwork him right now. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's other days where I'm going first, and I can see in his eyes like he's looking at me like I got to take this dude out. So I think it's super important and like having that ability to turn it on and then shut it off, where it's like you go into the set and you're having those conversations on like, what are you gonna do, right? And then you come out of it and you're just like, all right, cool, we can laugh and chill now. And then you turn it back on for the next set, and then you turn it back
Mm-hmm.
off. I think that's so valuable.
I'm big into like the superstition side of like training. Like I have my little routine before I work out. I know a lot of people have their little routines before they work out. I love the mug, by the way. Um, but
Is
everyone
that
has their own little thing. Yeah, that's awesome. Uh, everyone has their own little routines that they do either right before the set, right before the workout. And I want to say it was Nick Loft said something along the lines of like he doesn't wear headphones except for the top set.
Mm.
Only his top sets does he have music playing in his headphones. JP has because Colin, if you didn't know, he's a big JP guy. So
Oh, love that. Love that.
JP's playing his classical music before or during a set. Do you have your own little thing that you have purposefully drilled, or is there anything that you sat there and you were just like, I really want to make this my thing before I do my biggest set of the day or my biggest set of this exercise?
Yeah, definitely. Especially for the top sets. So like for my warm-up sets, at least, like I'm definitely a lot more talkative, especially like when I'm training with Kyrie or like there's been times I've been training with my girl. And like, I'm talkative in between those sets. It's like, all right, cool, we're warming up, we're getting there. And normally what I do, my process is like I'll load up the whatever weight that I'm going to use for my top set, for example, like on a hack squat, right? We'll load up the last plate, I'll throw my headphones on, and then there are specific parts of like specific songs. I really like heavier rock songs where it kind of like builds up, and then there's like a longer part where it's like hitting really hard, and then it comes down afterwards, and it's like nice and slow. And so I'll let that part of the song build up as I'm getting myself mentally prepared. And then depending on what season like of life I'm in. So last year's off season, I had different things that I was using mentally versus this year coming out of prep and getting sixth in my class. It's like I'm literally envisioning myself standing on that stage and they're like, in sixth place, Gabriel Rocha. And I'm just like, damn, I never want to feel like that again. And so it's like leading into that top set of hack squats, it's like I can literally picture that moment where I'm standing there on stage and I'm just like, damn, you just got last in your class. And so like I replay that constantly before I'm going into my top set of hack squats or my top set of deadlifts.
I have two medals hanging at the counter of the gym that are both second place, right next to the leg press, for the simple reason of I didn't get first, and they told me my legs are what held me back. I feel you, emphatically feel you.
Here,
Colin doesn't have that problem. Must be nice. I
Yeah,
feel you.
well, I
We're
have
on
no
the same
fucking
page here.
upper, dickhead.
Well, let me show you guys something real quick. So this is my little closet where I keep my gym bag. And so I've got my gym bag right there on the floor. And then that's my last place medal right there. So every day when I go in to grab my gym bag,
Fuck.
every single day I go in and grab that gym bag, that medal stares at me in the face and says, hey, you got sixth in your class. What are you going to do about it next time?
God, I love this. I'll be right back. Colin, ask your next question. I love it. I love that.
More from so again, you talked about Kyrie, how he's really in a mentally a great spot. How would you kind of approach someone who isn't? Because I'm not gonna lie, after my show, very mental. I'd say mental anguish more than anything. A lot of bullshit happened in my life in the last month of my prep.
Yep.
Um, how essentially would you approach an athlete's, mental, what kind of tips and tricks? And it's funny, we're kind of talking about this today because a couple of my clients are going through a lot of mental shit. So I'm gonna kind of push this episode on them. But like, how would you essentially approach them, or what would you have them essentially do in order to, again, kind of mentally hone it back in, to really more so not necessarily just in the gym alone, but realistically like life gym balance. Like how would you go about something of that?
Yeah, I think the really important part, at least with what I do. So, like I said, I've got that background in sports psychology. Um, I always like to make that line in the sand where it's like I don't do clinical psychology work, I just do
Mhm.
performance psychology work. So it's really
Gotcha.
about like human performance, like how do we essentially like create systems to allow you to perform better, right?
Gotcha.
If it
Gotcha.
starts
Gotcha.
going down like the clinical side, if there's like any mental health disorders and stuff, then I refer people out. Um,
Gotcha.
but with something like this, so I would essentially start with like doing like a normal intake, right? And being like, cool, like what areas are you not performing in that you could be performing better in, right? And then we start breaking down some of those systems and being like, okay, if it's like your personal business that you're trying to grow, if it's something related to bodybuilding, what are some of the barriers that are not allowing you to perform how you need to? So if it's someone like, yeah, I've got a lot of work stress going on, and then I get to the gym, I can't turn off the stress from work, and then I go into my workout and I'm still thinking about work. Some of the stuff that can be helpful with that is like some sort of mindfulness training, different types of like cue words or cue phrases. That's essentially we're just trying to divert your attention away from whatever's going on over here, this external stuff, and then point it in this direction. And so that's hard for people to do because like work is so important, right? And work
Mhm.
is so stressful. And so when it comes to humans, like we're not great at actually multitasking and being able to focus on multiple things at once. What we are really great at is attention shifting. So we can shift our attention between 5 or 6 different things all at once, right? This is what I do with, at least with my personal work as well. So I'm a contractor for the government. I work with fighter pilots and instructor pilots. Um, and so essentially what we're doing there is like we're teaching you how do you keep your attention on whatever the task is, right? And so for some people, it's like different types of cue words or cue phrases. For example, like working with Daniel, right? I'm sure he won't mind me talking about this because he's talked about it before. But
Be
like he
real, he's
used
not going to watch it.
was that?
Said, let's be real, he's not going to watch it. We got like 4 followers, and they're all my mom.
He might watch it if I post it.
There we go.
But anyways, I remember when he was going through prep, he was like, yeah, you know, like there's moments in the gym where I find myself really unfocused. And I was like, all right, cool. What are the things that are most important to you? He's like, you know, I want to win my pro card. My daughter's really important to me. I want to grow my business, et cetera, et cetera. And so like his cue that he would use, he had like a little wallet-sized photo of his daughter. And he would put that photo like on the hack squat, like on the little part that's like attached to the wall. And so he could see her as he's getting ready to go into his set to like mentally focus on that. He's like, okay, what am I doing this for? I want to create the best possible life for my daughter. So now none of the external stuff is in his mental focus. It's just this and then the work that I have to do. And so for a lot of people when it comes to mental performance is really how do we shut off that part of the brain that is not allowing me to focus on the things that I actually need to focus on in this moment?
That's great. No, I mean, wow. No, I mean,
Um,
it seems very simplistic, but at the same time, it's just like, oh, if you're not trained or have a degree or anything of that background, it's hard to kind of have that self-realization of, again, being able to shut off one part and focus on another. And again, it can work in the gym, but it can also work in a lot of different aspects of life in itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Two things. One, to just circle back to your closet real quick. That's wow. This is hanging out on my door, or not on my door, but like right on my thermostat in my room,
Damn.
Yep.
facing like this. Where I know it's backwards, but it says
Yep.
July 6, 2024, 14th place. Every day I look at this as I walk out of my room
Yep.
because this is the only thing that matters.
Yep.
Second, what you're what you were kind of describing of like bringing it back with Dan, like bringing it back to his daughter before does a set reminds me a lot of Have you ever read the book The Values Factor by John DeMartini, Dr.
No.
John DeMartini? So he talks a lot about linking and like this is your big picture. All these small little tasks need to be linked to the big picture in order to actually accomplish the goal. So something as stupid as I want to make my business as good as it could be. Well, in order for your business to be as good as it can be, you have to be organized. In order to be organized, you have to have your ducks in a row here. You have to have your schedule set, blah blah blah, things of that nature. I kind of piece together what you're saying is like you're linking the biggest goal to the smaller little minute things, whether it's getting 10,000 steps, you're giving it, or you're all on a hack squat. At the end of the day, when it comes down to the people that you work with in the sports psychology kind of thing, you find it to be different for someone who is more of a ex-military, more regimented type of person. So in my head, I look at military and kind of wrestling in the same constitute of like when there's a job to get done, the job gets done. It doesn't matter how you get there, whether it's a sauna suit or there's things you can't talk about afterwards. The job gets completed. You find the people who are more in a more relaxed type of mindset or have a more relaxed psychology to be completely different. You have to approach it differently. Does linking work for them, or is it something that just you got to find something completely different to work around?
Yeah, I think it kind of just comes back to that idea of like everybody is different. And I look at discipline as more of a skill than anything else. And skills are things that you can get better at or you can regress at. Right. And so someone who's coming from like a military background or a wrestling background, like you're talking about, they have built up that skill over so many years of like, if you're military, it's like I wake up every morning, I shave my face, I make my bed, I shine my boots, I iron out my clothes. And it's like really what we're talking about is you've just developed a system and you've kept that system in place. And so for me personally, it's like my system is I meal prep every Wednesday and I meal prep every Sunday. It's like part of that process is like Sunday mornings, my girl and I, we wake up, we go for a walk, we go to Costco at 10 a.m. when they open. I come home, I meal prep. So it's in terms of keeping that discipline, how are you developing those systems in place and then not allowing external factors to affect those systems that you're putting into place? And so when it comes to someone who's in a more relaxed environment, say you're working like, you know, like an office job, 9 to 5, like you don't really have anyone like overseeing you, you don't have like direct oversight from a boss the same way you would in a military setting or from a wrestling coach, then it's like, okay, how can you develop your own systems to start developing some of that discipline and then keeping those systems in place? It takes a lot more effort, I think, because again, it's a skill and you're starting from here versus someone in the military. They've got that discipline up here because they've been so used to it for so long. Um, and so I think figuring out what kind of motivates people, and I don't really like the whole motivation versus discipline argument because it's like, you need both, right? They're both two different levers that you can pull at times. And so there's sometimes where you really have to lean on discipline and just kind of grit your teeth and do the thing. And then there's other times where motivation is super high and you're like, yeah, you know what? I can't wait to go to the gym today. But it's like we have those days where you're like, I don't want to go train. My body's beat up. My stomach feels a little wonky. Maybe my shoulder's feeling a little weird. And that's going to be one of those discipline days. So figuring out what really drives those people through the different conversations that I have with them from the sports psych side and understanding, hey, what are your biggest values? Why are you doing this thing? And then linking it back to that value and then seeing like, okay, how can we keep that big value within your frame of mind on a daily basis and just kind of sprinkle in different little like reminders throughout your environment. Right. So I've got another athlete that I'm working with. He's a bodybuilder. Um, and he likes to snack late at night and kind of go off his diet. And I was like, all right, cool. Let's put a whiteboard up, like a magnetic whiteboard on your fridge. And then throughout the day, you're going to have a checklist of all the things you need to do. I like to use the analogy of like, in terms of whatever goal you're chasing for bodybuilding, like you're building a cathedral, right? And to build that cathedral, you need to stack bricks in that cathedral. So every day you're stacking different bricks, whether it's getting all your meals in, getting all your steps in, doing your cardio, training. And so every day you go to the whiteboard and you check off each thing that you did that day. Did I follow my meals? Yes. Meal 2, meal 3, meal 4, meal 5, meal 6, whatever. And at the end of the day, if you still want to cheat on your diet, now you have to go back to that whiteboard. Oh,
She
now
makes
you
an
have,
appearance every episode. Her name's
I love it.
Delilah, if you haven't met.
I love
Yeah, I
it.
do.
Well, um,
Fucking
and then if you go and you want to snack and cheat on your diet, now you have to erase it off the whiteboard. And that's a lot more of a visceral effect of like, oh, I have to take a brick out of my own cathedral that I'm building now. And so that's one of those
Ooh.
motivating things where it's like, hey, do I want the food more than I want to erase this thing off my whiteboard?
May I take that?
Absolutely. Steal it.
yeah,
I
that's
like that. I like that a lot. Whether it's a mirror or a whiteboard, doesn't matter. I like that a lot. That's a good one.
Yeah. What's
PayPal
that?
link in the bio.
What's the phrase? Good artists borrow, great artists steal, something like that.
Yeah, got it. Wow, that's a really good one. I I love that. Um, from the perspective of you as an athlete, I Colin might not feel this one, but I feel it, right? Not getting the placing that you want. When you sit there and when you sat there and you got your placing, how much did your mindset change in that exact moment? Did you feel what was going to happen, how much you were going to progress this offseason? Was your mindset already before you even walked on the stage like, hey, I know exactly what I have to do after this? Or were you sitting there after you got your placing like, I bet I'm dragging myself through the rest of this. I'm dragging myself through this offseason. I'm making sure that I leave no stone unturned. What happened for you after the placing? Was there a huge mindset shift, or was there just keep cracking on, keep doing what I got to do?
So for me, just leading into the show that I did. So it was me and Justin's first show together. So I've been with him for almost 3 years now. I had never been that lean before in my life. So the way that I looked at the show this time, especially being Texas State, which is one of the harder shows in Texas to do, and
Hmm.
like I don't do novice. I don't do true novice. Like I just went straight to the open. I should open bodybuilding. That's it. Like I just want to get compared against the best. I have no care at all for like, yeah, I won my true novice class. Like for me, that's like minor leagues. Like I just want to go up against the best. And so my mentality going into the show was for the off season. I was like, I just want to get lean, get on stage. That way I can have a good off season for all of 2025. And so going into the show, I was like, you know what? Like, I know I'm probably not going to win an open class at my first show. And so I went into it already, just get as lean as possible. That way we can rebound out of it and have a really good off season. But when I was up there and I got that last place medal, I was like, this is basically a participation medal. Like, first off, I don't want it. There's a video of me walking off stage, taking the medal off as I'm already like walking off stage. Um, but I remember the first thing I did when I got off stage, I grabbed my phone, I texted Justin, and I was like, I got last. Let's go into the off season. Off season starts tomorrow, right? And so my mentality was already like, I'm looking forward to next off season. Like I was 3 weeks out, and me and Kyrie are training, and we're already talking about, hey, what are we doing this off season? It wasn't the focus was never like, yeah, we're trying to go win the show, we're trying to get nationally qualified. The whole focus was how do we have a good 2025? Because for him, he got fifth at his show. And so he's already aiming at the 2020, was it 2026 Texas Pro? And so our whole focus was just like, hey, what are we doing in 2025? And so I don't think there was much of a shift because the focus has already been on the off season, but it definitely adds fuel to the fire for 2025 in terms of like, okay, now I can use that feeling that I had when I was sitting on stage waiting for everyone else to get their fifth place or fourth place, third place, second place, overall medals. So that's how things have been since the show.
So now leading from, the show where there wasn't necessarily an expectation, but there still was that, that shitty feeling of that last place, going into this off season to your next, like what is your expectation now, like now it's I gotta win. I mean, granted, we always want to win as men. It's you always want to go in and win. No one ever wants to fucking lose. But it's like for your mindset now going into it, you've gotten stage lean, reversing out. I mean, going into this next one, you're gonna have a long off season going into your next show. Is that expectation like I'm taking it all, or it's not worth, or it's basically if you're not first, then you're fucking last.
Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby. I mean, ideally, yes, but I think that comes with time and kind of seeing how the body progresses
Hmm.
throughout the year. Where it's like realistically, if I'm going to go out, because the goal right now is for me and Kyrie to both do the Texas Pro together. Obviously, I'm doing the amateur side. Um, but yeah, so I think it really depends on like where my body is at, because I at least want to be realistic with myself. Because if I get to the point where it's like, like you're probably not going to win, and then you go into the show thinking like, yeah, I'm going to win my class, I'm going to win an overall, and then you get there and you take like fourth in your class, it's just like, cool. Now I have unrealistic expectations. So I think there's a lot of value to also having realistic expectations based on how you're progressing. But the goal really is to like bring a much improved package in 2026 and be like, whatever I brought to the stage at Texas State this year, I'm gonna absolutely blow that out of the water.
Yeah.
Like I plan on blowing that out of the water by like 12 weeks out next prep.
Yeah, I try and tell it to a lot of younger, and not to say you're a young competitor, but younger competitors who want to like step on stage for the first time. You tell everyone wants to win. Even my first show, I looked like a bag of shit on stage. I looked 6 weeks out on show day. Um, it was just, there's always an expectation that you set for yourself, but it's, if you're getting better each year. And I made a post about this on my Instagram where there's a comparison of my first show to my fifth show, I believe it was this year. 2.5 years between those preps. And it's a very slow and progressive change, but it's the matter of making the changes necessary. And, each year I got better. That in itself is a win. So it's as long as you're progressing as an athlete, you're building the body that you want and you're building, and no matter what the place, because I went from third place first year to getting third place second year. I look substantially better, standards are just much higher. So it's just getting better each year. It's like no matter what, if you win or lose, it's you have to take those wins because if you don't take those wins, that in itself will mentally destroy you in the sport. Because a lot of bodybuilding, as you know, it's a huge mental game. It's a very there's a huge mental aspect of how you have the outlook on yourself, body image, all this kind of stuff, because we all feel like we look like shit. It is what it is. But it's something if you don't feel like you're getting better or you can't see the progression year after year of you getting better, then there's something that you have to change as an athlete, whether it's from the mental and or physical and or both sides of things, because at that point, something has to change, whether it's your training style, your coach, your regiment, whatever the case may be. There's something that has to be done in order for you to be successful within your own perspective because in bodybuilding it's subjective. I placed third this year up north. I came down south and I won my show. Different judging panels, two completely different fucking regions and two completely different placings. So again, it's you just have to take your own perspective and kind of shift that from the mental side of things because again, if you can't physically wrap your mind around taking the small wins of getting better each year, you're not going to last a long time in the sport or hobby. Sorry, Josh. My apologies.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah,
thing. This is a hobby, not a sport.
fair enough. But yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying there because I think a lot of people, their main focus is on the placing. And at least from like a sports psychology background, it's like that's not something you can control. It's like the judges control your placing. Whoever else shows up on that day, like that's an uncontrollable, right? You can show up and at your show looking the best you've ever looked, and then three guys who are all ready to go win their pro cards also show up because that's the last national qualifier of the year, and they're all trying to get their qualification still. And it's like, cool, I placed second at this show earlier in the year, but then I got fourth here. Is that a win or a loss? Well, did you improve? What are you
Yeah.
focusing on? And so if you can take those wins and be like, yeah, maybe I got a worse placing at this one show where these specific people showed up, but the package keeps improving every time I step on stage. At the end of the day, you keep doing that year over year over year, your physique keeps improving. That is the goal.
Yeah, and
Great.
that's
Cool. We're back. The countdown, we ran out of time. So that's why we're all miscombobulated now. So running it back. Colin, do you have a question to start us back up or the end of that last question?
no, it again, it just really was. I just wanted to see your standpoint on it because again, like I said, it's nobody likes to lose. And if you do, this is the fucking you're doing it for the wrong reason.
There is no
You're doing this
sport.
for
There's no sport for you if
all
you like to
right.
lose.
Yeah, it's more just I wanted to kind of see where your head was at again. What expectations you had, is it ideally a placing? Is it just getting better? Because again, when it comes to the more broad spectrum of things, when I really took a step back after this year was as long as I'm progressing as an athlete, I'm winning. And I have to take those little wins and then implement it into my training. Know that, again, this next and upcoming year, this is going to be my year that is full blown head down. It's always been for the pro card, but it's like biggest chance of me getting a pro card after a very, very progressive off season, very productive off season. I know that this upcoming year is going to be, I'm going to put myself through the gauntlet essentially. I'm hitting every show possible in order to get it. Obviously, I want my fucking pro card at show one, but
Yeah.
if need be, you'll be seeing me back in Jersey and up on stage at Universe. But yeah, it's really just more so the fact of is it just progressive progress over time, or is it just placing? Was more so the mindset of how you were to take um your wins in this upcoming season.
Yeah, and it's definitely much more just like the physique progression and then also the training progression. So it's like I have my logbook. I know Josh, you probably see me like post it up. It's like from week to week is my training performance improving because I know that's going to yield the muscle growth. Um, but also just keeping that mindset of like, I can't control who's going to show up on stage at a certain day. So just as long as you're still continuing to get better, that's all you can do. So it's like for me, I'm not even thinking about a pro card right now because I know I want to do open bodybuilding and I know I'm years away from that. I probably got like 5 to 7 years before I'm competitive on a national open bodybuilding stage.
Mm.
And so for me, it's just like, nail the off season every off season. Can you nail 5 perfect off seasons in a row? And can you just keep training hard? And if you can do that, the goal is to build a pro level physique, not just get the pro card. Because
Yeah.
at least I can control the fact of, am I building that pro level physique? I can't control whether I get an actual pro card or not.
Yeah. And that's me and Josh we always bullshit and talk about it where we'll meet each other in the overall universe. But obviously that's the
I'm gonna
thing.
fucking be there.
It's one thing to win a pro card, but it's also one thing to earn the pro card and really, again, win the class, really be competitive in the overall because yeah, it's all well and good to get a pro card, but realistically speaking, if you go and win an overall, there's a lot of times where it would be nice to be able to roll off that stage and roll yourself into a pro show. And again, be competitive in a perfect world, yes. But at the same time, you don't want to get a pro card and people like question it, like, oh, you're a pro? It's like, no, you got to essentially look the part, but also at the same time, there's a lot of development mentally, but also physically when it comes to all sides of things.
I've got a question for you guys. This one was always interesting to me. How do you guys feel about like second place pro cards, like at a national level show? Like if you get second in your class and you win a pro card, how do you guys feel about that?
For purely selfish reasons. It's funny. It's funny you say that because my coach kind of shit on the US for it because he's from the UK and he got his pro card winning the amateur show of the Europa Pro. It was like the
Yeah.
biggest show in Europe and he won the overall.
Yeah, he's an animal,
And I,
Jack.
dude, fucking the fact that me and him are like an inch apart and he's like 55 pounds of me is disgusting. And I think, it's kind of a cop out. It's great. You can say you're a pro and all, but it's like, you didn't win. So
Exactly.
it's great and all, but me personally, for purely selfish reasons, I say fuck it, I'll take a pro card. But at the same time, it's kind of it's like, oh, you won your show. It's like, no, I came second, but I'm still a pro.
Josh, you look like you got something to get off your chest over there.
Let it fly, big dog. Hurt some feelings.
I'm winning the fucking overall.
Not if I
Um,
have anything to do with that one.
Good luck, motherfucker.
Yeah.
How I feel about second place bros. I know some second place bros don't like being second place bros.
Yeah.
It's it's a participation. You're still the first loser on stage. Sorry, fuck it. You're still the first loser on stage. You have to. We watched Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Third place went to Derek Lunsford. What's the next thing they say? And new. Hadi didn't have his name turned around and he wasn't celebrated. At minimum, who celebrates when they say the second place person? The guy who fucking won,
Yep.
not the guy who won second place. So no, second place pro cards. Sorry, they exist. They're a thing. If you get a
In the
second place pro
US.
card, you have to be Ross Flanagan after that. You have to win and show the fuck up.
Yeah.
You have to win your first pro show. So if you get a second place pro card, you're still a pro. You're still significantly better than I am. But there's no doubt in my mind, or should there be a doubt in anyone's mind, that when you show up to your first pro show, you have to win.
You have to prove it.
Yeah, you have to turn around and say, like, no, I didn't just win a second place pro card because I was the second best guy there or second best girl there. I won the second place pro card and I showed up and I beat everyone who got a first place because they couldn't fuck with me on that day.
Yeah.
They can't fuck with me on any day. I honestly give me the second place pro card because I promise you I'm not coming to second any show after that.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn. I'm winning whatever the hell's next because I'm not going to allow myself. That's a stamp. That's a stamp for the rest of your life. That's a second place. You can't ever have that happen again. Sorry, this is where my mindset's coming out, and I have to get aggressive with it. I don't like losing. I hate losing more than I love winning. I
Yep.
don't want to be second. I don't want to be third. I don't want to be fourth fucking team. Second place hurts just as much as last. in my book, and it always will. And crop that, put it on TikTok, fucking cancel me. I don't give a fuck. Second place hurts more than last place every single time.
Yep.
So that's my headspace. I think with that said, like, comment, share, subscribe, fucking share the video, comment, whatever. Call me an asshole. I don't give a fuck. Second place sucks.
Yo.
We're out. Peace. It's been a real
Oh,
great time.
well.